Hello and welcome to a quick video going over the 5 stages of design thinking. Today's video is not going to have any slides. There are none as a part of the design thinking process. Rather, this is going to be a broad overview of the ideas of design thinking. So, to start off, really, when we look at design thinking and what that is as an idea, I do want to start with a definition, and it is a methodology that is going to help you solve problems through something a little bit more ambiguous and a little less defined than uh, traditional thinking and review processes. When I think of design thinking myself, I personally have only experienced this a couple of different times, but I've traditionally utilized design thinking in the website review process, the beta testing process. That is, there is a website that I'm building, or I'm on a team building one. And rather than asking users to do specific things and take specific actions, I sit in a room with them. Uh, I react to how they peruse the site themselves naturally and determine how is it that people are coming across and landing at in certain areas. Then I ask them questions about the website itself, what their feelings are about certain things, certain color schemes, certain placements, certain content, and that way it helps to number one, it better um, captures what an actual user is going to be doing on a website. But number two, it also gets more of the raw emotion and quick responses rather than something that can be more calculated. If you were to send out a link, for example, and have people take specific actions and then like, fill out a survey or something. So when I first did this, it was really powerful to learn in real time what beta testers thought of the website product that was in front of them. And I thought that that's a really great thing to add into this course is the idea of design thinking and how it can help us as digital marketers, as user experience designers. But then also when we think about this, the larger, broader idea of the user experience is that you want to think about the user's actual experience and not what you want them to have in terms of an experience. When you are putting together a website and having people review it, you want people to give you their actual thought process and feelings towards something and not something that is more contrived. And that's kind of design thinking in a nutshell. Because when we think about that, there are 5 stages to this. There's empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and then test, which is kind of what we just talked about. Um, the idea, and I'm not going to go through and define every single one, but I do want to quickly kind of provide an overview of what each one is. Um, and I take these definitions myself, both from the article in the Interaction Design Foundation website, but then also there was I guess you'd call it an ebook and an online document written back in the late aughts about really an introduction to design thinking and what it represents. So if we think about empathize first, that's the number one thing. Um, you need to not just research your users' needs, but you need to know about them and care about their lives. And when we first hear that, we think of buyer personas, and that's a marketing principle, something where you research and determine, okay, what are the latent desires of the user and of the potential customer. But in this case, we're not just building out demographic data and behaviors, but it's more human centered. It's more taking a feeling based approach and not a list of facts that you would outline in a buyer persona. And there's a core difference there. Whereas when we think about buyer personas, You just want to get as much information about the user as possible. It's kind of like what Facebook does with our data right now and what Google does. They want to capture as much data and as many interactions that we have on the web because they can build a model of us that's pretty accurate based on our web activities. But that does not empathize. That action is that congregation of data is just building a a bunch of features and a bunch of traits. It's not capturing the actual motivations behind us and what we do. And the idea behind empathizing too is that um, as a design thinker, you're not solving your own problems, you're solving those of somebody else's. And when you do that, you need to understand what those problems are. And you're not going to truly understand it by just knowing what somebody's income, what their browsing history is, and what social media channels that they prefer. That's not going to get you the proper level of understanding for your target audience. And this just happens through observation, engaging um, and talking to the audience, and that's why the idea of design thinking is best done. It must be done live, but ideally it's done in person. It can be done virtually, of course, via Zoom or whatever. But being able to have this interaction with somebody is going to be really important. If you just have a beta tester that you've never met before, somebody that just kind of shows up one day, it's not going to be nearly as effective as having a review process with somebody who you've gotten to know and understand. And then the second stage here after empathize is to define, and that is taking the problems of the user that you have researched and turning it into something that you can react to. The idea of definition here or the define step is essentially building a point of view, and you want to be able to use you're going to be able to have some needs that are going to be important to fulfill. Plus you want to look at some insights that you might have gotten. You're going to be looking at, you're essentially establishing their point of view on the issue or whatever the problem is that you're designing to try and solve with a website or some other property. I think that's a pretty basic one. I think it's pretty simple. Of the five, it's probably the easiest one to understand. You're just taking the things that you've learned and research from empathizing and turn it into a definition. And then the third one is to ideate. This is where the idea, you've probably heard the word ideate before, maybe not. But that is looking at all of the different possibilities that exist. This is where, again, I look at design thinking in terms of of beta testing a website. And you don't want to ask people, you don't want to tell people to take actions. You want to just see what they come up with on their own. This is where ideating occurs. And, through user testing and getting this feedback, people are going to help you ideate potentially some new ideas and some solutions for this website that you are building in theory. And how is it that they come to this conclusion? This is another part of understanding the target audience. What are the actions that they take online? Are there certain psychological factors that are taking effect? And what is their approach as a user? And ideating really helps to bring all of that up to the surface. Then you go on to the prototype. That is step 4. To define what a prototype is, it's really just anything that a user can interact with. That's your website. That is where you actually provide something to the tester, to the user, to react to. This is how you can get, at you. The idea behind this too is to, you do want to ask questions. You don't want to just let them go willy-nilly through the site, but you want to use the prototype of a website or whatever, an app or something else that you would have them review and test for you. And you want to get their quick feedback. All right, what are your initial reactions to the homepage? what is your eye, what are your eyes drawn to first? How do you perceive the brand, whatever the brand is, on this website? What are your initial impressions, first impressions? And then have them navigate to another page. All right, I'd like to go to the the product page, and then you ask them some more questions about that. And the prototype is critical here because it is the actual thing that you have people reacting to now. Um, Finally, we have testing, and test mode is when you're taking the prototype and you are asking those questions, and then you are bringing together that feedback that people provide. Design feedback or design thinking is best done with groups where you can have multiple people providing multiple points of view. Um, Ideally, there is a small group. It's kind of like um, almost like a user testing group looking at focus groups, for example, where you don't want to have too many people. You don't want to have 50 individuals, but you want to have a group of, say, 6 to 10, maybe 12, and everybody's going through the actions at the same time as you. They're going through the motions, looking at various points on the website, reviewing it, and providing their initial thoughts. If you think about design thinking with like a product, with product marketing, the way that this is done is that they will send stuff to people's houses and have them use it in the context of their daily lives. That is another example of really capturing the true user experience. Because if you are in a controlled environment and you're like sitting at a table, maybe you have a new food product and you have everybody's eating ice cream. The experience of eating and enjoying that ice cream in a controlled, stuffy office at a table where they know they're being watched is not going to be the same as if they are buying it from a stand outside on a hot day in the midst of going about their regular routine. It's a very different experience, and it's something that by you're already setting them up for failure and for providing you a very different set of feedback than if you could provide them the product to test out in the field, going about their daily lives. Something I found interesting in an article that I read about about testing is always prototype as if you know you're right. Create the product as if you know what the answer is, but you want to test it as if you know you're wrong, and that this is the chance to refine your solutions and make them better. So prototyping, creating the product, create it as if you know what the solution is. But then when you are having people test it out themselves, you are actually working under the assumption that there's something incorrect, that there's something that could be improved. And that's the whole point of testing, is that people can give you feedback so that you can quickly go back, make those updates, make those adjustments so that your larger target audience can enjoy and have the desired effect that you want in mass, rather than just kind of going off of what you think. Because based on, as you may recall from earlier in the empathize step, you don't create products to solve your own problems. You're creating an audience's problem. And that is where kind of the design thinking comes full circle. So that's really about it here. I just wanted to go through all of these steps and make sure that you understand them all. When you think about design thinking, think about it in terms of user experience testing in the various stages in having an audience or having a focus group try out your product. The product is the prototype. They are testing. You need to empathize and understand them. And then you need to turn that into a definition while also ideating, coming up with multiple versions and options for that prototype. So that just about wraps it up here for today. There's not going to be a ton of videos on this in UX design throughout the semester. There will be probably one for each discussion, but just wanted to start this off on the right foot and make sure that you're aware of what these various steps are in the design thinking process, and how they can be applied in digital marketing.